Breaking news out of Manchester City, Kevin De Bruyne will be leaving the club at the end of the season, bringing an end to his 10-year stay at the club. The Belgian maestro announced the news on his Twitter this morning, with numerous sources stating a move to the Saudi League is imminent. However, I really just want to talk about Kevin De Bruyne today. I want to talk about his time in the Premier League. I want to talk about his legacy in the Premier League, what kind of player the Premier League is losing, and just how much of a fan I've been of this guy probably since the minute he stepped in the league. Now, I say all of that as a supporter of his club's biggest rivals, Man United. But I think in Kevin De Bruyne, you're talking about one of those players that on a day like today, every fan of football, every fan of the league, no matter who you support, can kind of tip their hat off and say, farewell, we really enjoyed you. He has probably hurt your team, again, no matter who you supported, more times than most players, right? His record in big games, his performances, his impact on those kinds of fixtures is non-negotiable. It's unquestionable. However, I still feel he's one of those players that, again, if you appreciate the game, you would have looked at him in this 10-year space and just thought to yourself, wow, what a player. What a player the Premier League is fortunate to have. What a player Manchester City are fortunate to have. And damn, I wish he played for my team. I think most fans will have said that at one point in their lifetime. I wish Kevin De Bruyne played for my team. I know I've said that numerous times. And I think for a big reason, that's just because of the consistency, the quality, the mentality, and the success that he's brought to Manchester City in this time. Now, Kevin De Bruyne, if you want to go on accolades, it's unquestionable. 6-time Premier League winner. Six. Ridiculous. Treble winner, obviously including the Champions League, Man City's first and only one to date. Numerous time FA Cup winner, numerous time Carabao Cup winner. Did he win the PFA Player of the Year twice? Or was it just once? I think he won it twice. However, I'll be real. 2021, I didn't think he was the best player in the league, but he won it in 1920 by a landslide, and rightfully so. And in my opinion, right, I know there was this whole conversation going on around like the best player of each decade. I think the 2000s, I thought it was Henry for the stretch of that. The 2010s, I thought it was Eden Hazard. But you know what it is, right? Hazard left the league in 2019. I think between 2017 to at least maybe like last season, I would say, I think De Bruyne has been neck and neck with everybody. I think there are times where they've been brilliant players, right? Van Dijk had a season, Salah's had seasons, but I just think on pure quality, I think Kevin De Bruyne has been the best player of this Premier League era. I really do believe that. This guy's impact on winning is just an absolute joke, guys, right? And we know what it is with Kevin De Bruyne. The stats, he ticks it. In terms of, what is it? Games per assist, this guy is untouchable. In fact, I think he's the greatest creator the Premier League has ever seen. Now, there's a lot of brilliant creators in Prem history, right? David Beckham, Cesc Fabregas, Ryan Giggs. I think Trent from right back has been one of the best. Ozil, of course, as well, too. I think this guy's the king. And that comes from a massive Cesc Fabregas fan. Cesc Fabregas was my first favorite player in football. And it's hard for me to put anybody above him when it comes to passing. But this guy has taken it to another level. Right? The only one that stands above him in terms of all-time assists is Ryan Giggs, and it comes in a whole lot more games, right? That record might never be broken, but if De Bruyne had seriously stayed the entirety of his Premier League career, he probably would have broke it. So stats is unquestionable. Trophies, as we just said, are untouchable, or unquestionable. Individual accolades, as I've just stated, unquestionable. Quality, unquestionable. But you know what I really love the most about Kevin De Bruyne, and what I'm gonna miss about him a lot? When you kind of just strip the game to its purest form, take away the profiling of a player, take away formations, take away phases, take away shape, take all of that away. Just strip football down to its purest form. Kevin De Bruyne is really a coach's dream. Let me explain to you why he is, right? He's a player that you can kind of just give the ball to most places on the pitch, and he's able to either carry the ball, drive past players, dribble past players, pass the ball at an incredible level, cross the ball at an incredible level, shoot from anywhere on the pitch, finish off chances, lead his team. And also, if he loses the ball, his work ethic, his mentality, his industry, he's able to run the other way, win it back, and do all of it again. As a coach, that has to be an absolute dream. Because again, you can talk, everything that I just stated is important. Profiling, first phase, second phase, shape, out of possession, all of that's important. But when you have a player like Kevin De Bruyne, that it almost felt at times you could just give him the ball and say, take me there. He's able to do that. That's a rare gift for a player. That's what makes the best the best. That's what separates the great players from the elite from the all-timers from the GOATs. Kevin De Bruyne, you could give him the ball almost anywhere and he can just make something happen. I love that about a player. I always stress it on this channel. And I think Kevin De Bruyne in the Premier League post Eden Hazard is that guy. When you talk about give him the ball and let him just create magic, I think it's him. Honestly, I think he's the best passer the Premier League has ever seen. Now, when it comes to passing, that's obviously it's a nuanced discussion, right? Because there's numerous kinds of passing. Passing from deep, right? When it comes to passing from deep, maybe it's Paul Scholes in terms of passing from deep, right? Those vertical, those diagonal passes that he can play from one side of the pitch to the other. He's incredible at it. There's second phase passing in terms of just controller-esque, like Cesc Fabregas again. And then there's final third passing. And all three of those require different skills. And I wouldn't say Kevin De Bruyne is the best, like, controller of a game I've ever seen in my life. I would never say that. But when it comes to final third passing, which for some people might be the most important version of passing because it's the passes that kind of create chances and get goals, I can't think of a player like him, man. Honestly, I always say about Kevin De Bruyne, he has, in my opinion, the most inevitable pass in the game. I call it the highest XG chance in the game. What do I mean by that? Let me show you. This pass right here is, I would say, his trademark. And I call it the highest XG chance in the game for a specific reason. Kevin De Bruyne in this right half space right here, right? Or sometimes he'll even play it like, can you guys see? Sorry. Okay, so you see my mouse right here, right? Kevin De Bruyne, this is his specialty. Oftentimes he'll also play it from here, right? This right half space here. But anytime Kevin De Bruyne is in this section of the pitch, it's almost a guaranteed chance for his team to score. Because, I mean, here they're kind of illustrating it, right? He mastered this outswinger with his right foot to the back post better than anybody I've seen in my life. Seriously, I don't think I can think of a player that mastered this pass more than him. And it's not like there's numerous reasons why it's the best pass and why he's the best at it. First of all, it's the area of the pitch in which he's playing it at, right? It's called the corridor of uncertainty because the goalkeeper doesn't want to come out and get it because if he misses it, he's in no man's land. As a center back, you don't really want to stick out a foot because if you do, there's a high chance that you kind of put it in your own net. And what makes De Bruyne so good at it is the accuracy, right? He plays it in that area between goalkeeper and defense nearly 99% of the time, but it's also the pace. He whips it. He borderline strikes the ball, right? Like Beckham was more of like, he kind of like guided it, right? Trent, he almost guides it. De Bruyne is almost like smacking the ball and he hits it, but he's smacking it, but he's not just shooting it and he's not just kind of like powering it and hope it gets there. It's still guided, right? But it's guided with so much pace and so much bend that no one wants to even get a foot on it except for the guy at the back post. And De Bruyne played this pass with such accuracy and such speed and such devastating efficiency that this guy right here, right, Raheem Sterling, what I'm about to say is going to sound disrespectful, but trust me, I'm not trying to disrespect Sterling here. He's one of the Premier League's greats as well too, right? And he kind of made a name for himself as this inside forward in the City team. But I genuinely think one day when Raheem Sterling is at the Premier League Hall of Fame, kind of getting his name called up and receiving his award, I think he needs to invite this guy up with him. I think Raheem Sterling owes damn near half his Premier League career to this guy. No disrespect to Sterling, but that's how brilliant this guy was. And you can make the argument as well too that, and I think De Bruyne has even said this before, right? The run makes the pass, and all credit to Sterling because his runs to the back post, there's a reason why Sané never got the goals that he did. Mahrez, Doku, and Savinho. Now he had a gift for it, right? And a knack for getting there. But man, the amount of times this guy would put the ball on a plate for Raheem Sterling. Sterling probably owes half his Premier League goals to this guy. I genuinely believe that. And honestly, a more efficient player than Sterling probably scores twice as many as he did. You put like Salah at the end of these passes. De Bruyne probably has double the assists. This guy, I genuinely believe, no disrespect to Raheem Sterling, but I genuinely believe he boosted Raheem Sterling to a whole nother level. And it's because this pass in his arsenal right here was damn near unstoppable. How do you stop this? If De Bruyne picks up the ball here, how as a defender do you stop him? How as a goalkeeper do you stop him? If he wants to play this pass, the only thing that's stopping it from being a goal is Raheem Sterling putting it into Rosette or Raheem Sterling putting it wide. And to be fair to Raheem Sterling, it happened a decent amount. But if he plays that ball here, it's as close to a guaranteed goal as you can really get, guys. Right? Like, yeah, there's guys who can play those balls. If he's here, he can play that reverse here. But it's still a tougher chance to finish off than this one. He puts it in a position that all you have to do as a forward is just be there. Anticipate that De Bruyne is going to play it there because 9 times out of 10 he is. Just be there and finish it off into an open goal. And that's why for me, I call it the highest XG chance in the game. And he mastered it. He mastered that pass. And it's why for me, he is the best creator in Premier League history. Bar none. Bar none. I love Fabregas's lofted passes into the box. I love David Beckham's crosses in the air. I love Trent's diagonal passes. But guys, none of them are as damn near guaranteed goals as this one right here. And it's De Bruyne's. It's his trademark. When he gets put in the Hall of Fame, it should be him and then a picture. He should be holding like what is it? A frame of this pass right here. They should go in together. I genuinely believe that. De Bruyne is a special player, man, and it's one that the Premier League is really going to miss, right? When I look at the Premier League right now, right, I keep saying it this season, I think the quality aspect of the Prem at the highest level is starting to go down. You still have Salah, you still have Van Dijk, but you have Trent leaving now. You have De Bruyne, who's leaving at the end of the season as well, too. In terms of top-end quality, you still have Haaland, who's arguably the best striker in the world, right? And I think Isak is emerging into that vein as well too. But I really do believe the high-end quality players in the Prem, you're starting to lose a few of them. And I think we are, as De Bruyne leaves and eventually Salah and Van Dijk will leave in the next few years. I would assume Pep will probably bow out as well too. I do think the Prem in terms of elite level is starting to come down a little bit. And I think we had a period like that in the mid-2010s where La Liga really had the best players in the world. And then the Prem took it back. I think late 2010s, early 2020s, the Prem was the best in terms of quality, in terms of entertainment. That was the best. But I think we are entering a phase now where you look at La Liga and all the best players are starting to play there again. And I think a big part of it is this era of city pool, if you want to call it, which was headlined by De Bruyne. It was headlined by Aguero at one point. It is headlined by Salah, Van Dijk, Trent. They are all starting to kind of phase out left of stage. And I think it's a damn shame, right? Again, as a Man United fan, I'm very happy that this guy is no longer there to torture me because he terrorized Man United midfields. Terrorized them. And I'm pleased that I don't have to come up against this anymore. But the league as a spectacle, as a product, is hurting by losing players like this. And I think Manchester City will massively be hurt by this loss as well too. Obviously, it hasn't been Kevin De Bruyne's best year, right? The injury that he kind of suffered after a few weeks in the Prem that ruled him out for a huge part of the season was devastating to City. And I think it's also been devastating to him because I think since he's come back, he hasn't been at the same level. Because let's not forget, guys, the way this guy started the season of Erling Haaland, he looked like he was getting close to his best again. I think that injury was just, we've known the last few years De Bruyne's injuries have started to rack up and it is taking a toll on him. But I think this last one that he suffered this season, that was the killer. That was the dagger. And I think ever since he's come back from it, De Bruyne has been a noticeable step or two off the pace. He's not that same guy anymore. The quality is still there. You put De Bruyne in, like I said, you put De Bruyne still in this area of the pitch, he can still play that pass to the back post. But that's not what just made De Bruyne so great. I'm just talking about the passing. What makes Kevin De Bruyne so great as well too? How many drivers from midfield have we seen in the Premier League of this guy's quality? You got Gerrard, who's unbelievable at that. You had Yaya Toure, who was unbelievable at that. Outside of that, guys, the ability to pick up the ball from midfield and just run at players and carry it and shrug guys off at a devastating rate. There aren't too many that have done it like Kevin De Bruyne. And that's the thing with De Bruyne, right? Oftentimes we get caught talking about his quality on the ball and his technique, and he is one of the best technicians the Prem has ever seen. But that was like ignoring how brilliant of an athlete Kevin De Bruyne was as well too. This guy could run. This guy could shrug guys off the ball. This guy could power shots from 40 yards out. He's an unbelievable athlete as well too, right? And that's part of the reason that made him so devastating. And it's also part of the reason that with these injuries, it has just really slowed him down. And the fact of the matter is that was the only way you were ever going to slow down Kevin De Bruyne. Because I know for damn sure there isn't a system that could stop him. There isn't a game plan that can stop him. There isn't a player that can stop him. The only thing that could stop Kevin De Bruyne is Father Time, which has eventually caught up to him. But wow, this guy, right? And you know what it is with Kevin De Bruyne as well too, right? Maybe the one blotch on his resume that you could say in the Premier League, right? I think I always say he misses out on my tier 1 of midfielders, which contains the likes of Zidane, Xavi, Iniesta, Modric, and Pirlo. The one thing for me that he misses out on is international pedigree. That's a whole other video though, right? But he's in probably my second tier. That's how highly I rate Kevin De Bruyne. But in terms of the Premier League, maybe the one blotch on his resume, and everybody has a blotch. Don't get it twisted. Everybody. Henry has a blotch on his resume. Ronaldo. Maybe Messi's the only one that doesn't have a blotch. His blotch that people can kind of like say, this is what I don't like about De Bruyne, is you could make the argument that he did miss parts of seasons where City didn't really seem to miss a beat. Like 18-19, for example. He did miss a part of that season, and City just kept on winning. 2021, he did miss a part of that season, and it was just like next guy up. That, for me, speaks more to the quality in depth and just the genius of Guardiola more than, City don't need De Bruyne to be great, right? He's still their best player. But one thing about De Bruyne, even if you do want to take that counter argument into play, when it comes to the run-in, right? The last 10 to 12 games of the season, where it's crunch time, where it's every game feels like a final. You can talk to me about, right, to win a Premier League title, all 38 games matter. And in theory, you're right, but let's be real. The last 10 games of the season, more often than not, is really crunch time. This is really what determines the winners and losers. And how many players in Premier League history can you say in crunch time of seasons were as clutch and devastating and decisive as Kevin De Bruyne. The last 10 games of the season, it almost always felt that when City needed to go on a run towards the end of a season, this was the guy for the big occasions. And I don't think that was any more true than the 21-22 season, where Liverpool were on course for a quadruple. They were going crazy in the league, and City had so many games where they could have dropped points. They could have slipped up, and Liverpool were ready. They were on their tails. And who was the guy that stepped up every single time for them? It felt like Kevin De Bruyne at that time, right? I think of the Manchester derby at the Etihad that season. Ridiculous. I think of that game against Wolves, which will honestly, in my opinion, go down as a Premier League classic game where Kevin De Bruyne from midfield bagged 4 goals. Or was it 4? It was 4 goals and an assist and a 5-1 win away at Molineux. And the goals, the caliber of goals, were just an absolute joke. And it also illustrated, again, I'm talking about Kevin De Bruyne's best attributes, and I'm almost forgetting stuff because he has so many of them. His arsenal of quality is ridiculous. But what about his weak foot? That's something I completely forgot about, and I can't believe I did, but it just speaks to what kind of player he is. His weak foot was an absolute joke, ladies and gentlemen. It was an absolute joke. The way this guy could strike a ball with his left foot, pass a ball with his left foot, whipping a ball with his left foot. He could often be forgiven for thinking, what's his better foot? He could strike the life out of a ball with his left foot. And that game against Wolves at Molineux was the perfect encapsulation of it. He ran the game from midfield. Again, carried the ball and just opened up so much space for his team, because when he starts driving, you got to put 2-3 guys on him, opening up space for other guys, coming up big with goals, getting his assist at the end of it as well too. Decisive. Again, that was a game that City could have lost. Wolves were pretty good that season. De Bruyne took care of them. And then let's not forget, final day of the season that year as well too. Aston Villa. Again, must-win game. Aston Villa go up 2-0. Salah gets a big goal for Liverpool. As things stand, Liverpool are Premier League champions. And who was it that, again, forget about profiling, forget about shape, forget about systems, forget about first phase, forget about all of that. Give the ball to your best player and say, take me to the promised land. It was Kevin De Bruyne. It was Kevin De Bruyne. Tied his laces, pulled up his socks, said, give me the damn ball and let's win this Premier League title. Picking up the ball, driving past players, putting the ball into the box. I mean, I'm even forgetting the first Gundogan goal, which is, again, a pinpoint cross from De Bruyne onto Gundogan's head. But look at this one, right? I can't show the goal, obviously, for copyright reasons. But look at where Gundogan is tapping the ball in from. He's practically tapping it in on the damn line. He's practically in the goal himself. And again, I can't show it, but watch this on YouTube. Look it up later if you haven't seen it, which I would be surprised if you haven't. It's De Bruyne's pass that is literally feeding, not playing him in. It's not all across that he might have to fit. He's feeding him on a golden platter, Gundogan. All you have to do is just tap it into the net. And that's what makes De Bruyne so brilliant. He is literally spoon-feeding his attackers. In the big games, on the biggest occasions, when Manchester City needed him the most, Kevin De Bruyne was the man. If the question is who's going to save us, the answer is Kevin De Bruyne. And that takes me on to my next point as well too. Europe. Because this is, again, why he's so brilliant and ultimately why he probably is Manchester City's greatest ever player. I, for the longest time, was saying Aguero, and I still think he has a pretty damn good shout for it. City's all-time top scorer, the guy that really put City on the map. That goal, right, the most iconic moment in Premier League history, he certainly has an argument for it. But if it is Kevin De Bruyne, this is the biggest reason why. In Europe, he was the equalizer. He was the answer. Before Kevin De Bruyne came to Manchester City, Man City were very good in the Premier League. They won 2 Premier League titles before De Bruyne got there. But in Europe, they were a team that were consistently underachieving. And that was with the core of David Silva. It was with the core of Aguero, Yaya Toure, Vincent Kompany. And yes, they didn't have Pep Guardiola, which I think is always something people forget to mention whenever we talk about that core. If they had Pep at those guys' prime, who's to say they couldn't have done something in Europe? But regardless, City only ever started doing something in Europe when De Bruyne got there. I'll take it to his first season under Pellegrini, 15-16, against that PSG team in the quarterfinals. A PSG team that were unbelievable that season. In Paris, getting the draw. Then in Manchester, the guy that scored that free kick on that night to send City to their very first Champions League semifinal, Kevin De Bruyne, the man for the occasion in Europe. And he would become the man for the occasion throughout City's European runs. So many times they came close, but just fell flat. But it was never for a lack of trying from Kevin De Bruyne, who made European nights his own for City. He is their greatest Champions League player ever. Bar none, it's not even close. Goals against Real Madrid were this guy's specialty, man. The amount of times this guy scored at the Bernabeu or scored at the Etihad against the most illustrious European team in the history of the Champions League was flat out ridiculous. Modric, Kroos, they're 2 of my favorite players ever. They're 2 of the GOATs. De Bruyne went to those guys' grounds and held himself accountable. He said, okay, those two are greats. I'm playing against one of the greatest midfield trios of all time. But do you guys know who I am? I can play against the best, man. I can do it against the best. The amount of times he would score huge goals, whether it was that penalty at the Bernabeu to give City one of their biggest nights in Champions League history, whether it was a few years later when Vinicius scored that goal in the Champions League first leg of the semifinal, and De Bruyne scored that screamer past Courtois, maybe one of his most iconic goals ever. Whether it was in 21-22, those goals at the Etihad against them. De Bruyne was a guy in Europe that just consistently got it done for Manchester City. And I think it's a damn shame for him that when it came to the finals, 2 times he had to be pulled out because of an injury. And some people will hold that against him, which I think is the corniest thing ever. It's not his fault that Rudiger basically assaulted him. Let's call it what it is. Rudiger, that's dark arts, and I got no problem. Like, that's the game, right? But he assaulted Kevin De Bruyne. He literally gave him a concussion, bro. And then in the second leg, in the second final against Inter, he gets injured. It is what it is. Like, that's not like De Bruyne not performing. He got injured. He could not physically compete anymore. Had to be pulled out. But to even get to those stages, De Bruyne was the man for Man City so many times. So many times. Their greatest ever Champions League player, bar none. And it ultimately probably makes him Manchester City's GOAT. And again, as a United fan, right, when it comes to, which I guess is the ultimate thing people are going to ask at the end of this video, where does he rank for you, Lyes? You guys know for me, right? I appreciate greatness. He's one of the greatest players I've ever seen in the Premier League. He's one of the greatest midfielders I've ever seen. He's by far the best creator I've seen in this league. But where does he rank, right? And again, I always think when it comes to greatness and when you're talking about the best you've ever seen, for me, it's an accomplishment even making that tier. And then from there, it's really all about preference. So City fans today, I've seen them say, oh, he's the Prem's greatest ever player. I think you could easily make the argument for it. I think you could easily make the argument for someone else. But the fact is, he's in that upper echelon of players. He is in the conversation for greatest Premier League players ever. He is in the conversation for greatest midfielders ever. And if he is your number one, I think his body of work and what he represents as a player and his quality is enough for you to genuinely make a case for it. I wouldn't agree personally for the greatest player. For the greatest midfielder, I think that one's always difficult as well too, because you're comparing 6s to 8s and 8s to 10s. One thing I'll say, and this might be my biggest compliment ever for De Bruyne, he's the greatest attacking midfielder the Premier League has ever seen, in my opinion. And in terms of greatest attacking midfielders I've ever seen in my life, flat out, I think it's only Zidane. Like, I often hear this comparison with him and Kaká. I have De Bruyne over Kaká. And I think some people will be like, how could you possibly do that? I think what De Bruyne has done and the quality that he has and his consistency and his longevity and his moments, his big moments and his accolades and his trophy cabinet, I don't think it's ridiculous for me to say that. De Bruyne is a legend of the game. De Bruyne is one of the best players I've ever seen in my life. And I think it's a massive loss to the Premier League that a guy like this is leaving. Again, obviously he's not at his best anymore. So some might say, well, it's not that big of a loss. He hasn't been that guy for a few years now. But it is a loss, bro. A guy that can play the multitude of passes that he can play. The passing quality, the intelligence. Henry always speaks about him as the most intelligent player he's ever seen. And this is a guy that's played with Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, Bergkamp, Messi. He said Kev is the smartest player I've ever seen. The way he thinks the game, he's borderline psychotic. And I wouldn't be surprised one day if we are to see Kevin De Bruyne on the touchline for a team coaching. Maybe the temperament aspect of it will be an aspect that kind of hurts him as a manager, because he's a crazy winner. The guy's obsessed with winning. And he's a bit of a weirdo. When I say he's a weirdo, I don't mean like, oh, like he's a weird guy, like, but you know what it is? He's a little tapped. Like, he's a psychotic winner. Guardiola's a bit tapped. Let's call it what it is, right? These guys, and honestly, the geniuses are tapped. That's not an insult to them. But they do have a little bit of a weirdness to them. They do think a bit differently, but all the geniuses are like that. The Da Vinci's, the Mozarts, the De Bruyne's, they are all a little weird, man. Like, that's not an insult what I'm saying to him. And ultimately, that might stop him from being the best manager ever. But the way this guy thinks the game, he's one of the best thinkers in football history. Kevin De Bruyne, I salute you. As a Man United fan, I salute you. You are one of this league's legends. You are an icon in this league. You have shaped this league. You have marked this league with your impact. And you will be a massive loss to the Premier League. So good luck on your next venture. It seems like that is the Saudi League. Yeah, that's all I really got to say about him, man. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Have I missed anything on De Bruyne? Are there any other points that I should have brought up? How will you remember Kevin De Bruyne? Where does he rank for you guys? Maybe I kind of gave you a cop-out. You know me, like, it all comes down to preference for me. And if you think this guy's near the top or you think he is at the very top, I think his body of work is enough to suggest that he very well might be. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching this video, guys. Thank you for checking out the channel as well, too. I'll be back with you guys very, very soon. I got a good tier list coming up for you guys, as well as an ESPN ranking reaction. Stay tuned. Peace.